So in our relationships, we're gonna have arguments, we're gonna have disagreements, we're gonna have fights. That's natural. Anytime you get two people or more together, there's gonna be times you guys don't see eye to eye. And that's gonna happen. It's a part of life. It's a part of growing together. It's a part of building up a real relationship that becomes a healthy and happy, loving marriage. But how do you get through the fights? How do you get through these arguments and disagreements in a healthy way that builds up your relationship in a good way instead of one that tears it down and tears it apart? Well, it can be done, and it's not that hard to do. See, first off, you just got to recognize one simple thing. You have to recognize that men and women, we're different. We come to the world through different perspectives. We look at it through different lenses. We want different things from our partner and in our relationship. And in disagreements, we have different communication styles. There's going to be times where if you're coming to your man and you're trying to express something, he's not going to be tracking on the same level that you are, just because he doesn't have that same communication level. There's going to be time, guys, where you're trying to tell your woman how you feel, where she's not going to fully understand, or she's going to think it's silly because, not because she doesn't care, but because you guys aren't talking the same exact language. You're using different styles of communication. And that's not a bad thing. The fact that men and women are different, that we want different things in a relationship, this shouldn't be a surprise to you. I mean, I know the crazy feminists nowadays and the woke people try to say that we're so incredibly equal that there's no differences at all. But those differences between us are what makes a relationship possible. We're supposed to get things from our partner that we don't get from ourselves. We're supposed to give our partner things that they can't get from within themselves. And that's a good thing. That's why we're able to be opposite yet complementary sides of the relationship coin for each other. So recognize that men and women communicate differently. How do they communicate differently? Well, again, it shouldn't be a surprise to hear, men tend to communicate very directly in a way that asserts either their power or their status. In that sense, we'll tell you, this is what's wrong, this is what needs to happen, this is how it needs to be fixed to fix us. Or if the anxiety starts to get up a little bit, they fall back on things like humor and sarcasm, stuff like that, language to try to ease that anxiety a little bit. Women tend to communicate in a way that builds more rapport and more connection and more, they use more empathetic language and try to communicate more emotionally rather than directly and in a way that asserts power or status over anything. Men, we tend to focus on the facts and the logic. We tend to hyper focus on that. Actually, guys, it's something you got to work on. You got to realize your lady is feeling things about the disagreement. Her feelings actually matter. They're important. They need to matter to you. Just coming in with the evidence saying this happened, X, Y, and that led to Z, sometimes that's not the way to go about it. You got to look at the fact that X and Y may have happened, but there's also A, B, and C, which are feelings and emotional states that are going into it. And how you address those is going to drastically affect how your lady not only feels about you addressing those, but how she feels about the outcome of it too. Men, we tend to use things like facts and logic of the matter. We tend to try to bring in evidence, maybe outside evidence, maybe evidence that shouldn't be brought in, doesn't have anything to do with the situation, but we think it's going to back up our support. And women tend to use more subjective, relational kind of things, try to ease into, get each other to see and feel each other's perspectives. So, how do we actually take these differences and use them in a way that gets us through our issue, or through our argument, through our fight? Well, the first is to simply recognize that those differences exist. Your partner has a different way of communicating. Your partner has a different things that he or she wants from you and that he or she is trying to express. And that's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means you guys might not be seeing eye to eye because you're in a sense speaking different languages. So how do you get past that? Well, the easiest thing is to start by asking, how does your partner actually feel? What do they mean? What do they want? Asking questions, the who, what, when, where, why. These things will actually dig down a little deeper. It shows your partner that you do care about what they're saying. Even though there may be a communication barrier or even a breakdown, it's not an issue of them. It's an issue of misunderstanding. And you're trying to understand by digging deeper and asking questions. Number two is you have to be willing to actually tell your partner what you mean and what you want. This is a tough one, especially for us guys, a lot of times, because guys, we don't want to just come out and say what we want or what we feel or how we feel to our partner. We'd rather just clam up a lot of the times and keep it inside and just deal with it off my phone in a way that we think is best. We don't need anybody else's help. We don't need anything else from anybody else. Ladies, I don't know, as a guy, it almost seems like sometimes we think our woman overshares. Like we just want the facts of it, and we tend to just hyper focus on that without being able to focus on the fact that she's trying to explain how she feels, how you made her feel, how the situation made her feel. And to her, that may be more important than whatever the stupid facts are. The facts of the matter can't be changed. What can be changed is how you two feel about it and how you two feel about each other. So, how do you get past that? I got 3 different things. The first one is using I statements. Things like, I think, I feel, I need, I want. This is a way, just like I said, tell your partner what you need. It's a way of directly telling your partner in a way that kind of cuts through all the BS. Hey, honey, I think this in this situation. I feel when this happened, I feel hurt. And it's because you did this. Or, hey, honey, you did X. And that makes me feel amazing. When you did that, it like lifted me up. That kind of thing, those I statements. I feel, I think, I need, I want. If you can remember those, it gives your partner an instant insight without any of the logic, any of the evidence, any of the empathy or emotionality. It just cuts through it all and tells them this is exactly what's happening and this is what needs to happen to make it better. Next is to use active listening skills. We hear about active listening all the time, but in reality, it's essentially just engaging with your partner, letting them know that you actually give a crap what they're talking about. So how do you do it? It's things like when they're talking, honey, when you did this the other night, it made me feel bad. You said something hurtful, it made me feel bad, whatever it is. Actually engage her and say, I recognize, I hear that. I understand what you're saying. I could see how when I did that, it made you feel bad. First off, it takes ownership. It recognizes, shows that you're recognizing the situation and the issue and you're part of it, which is kind of like an apology, breaking through that barrier of trust and communication and building up some respect of her opinions all at the same time. It's a multifaceted thing, but also it cuts down the defenses of your partner too. It lets them know that they're going to be heard. They don't have to keep on the attack. It's not a fight now. It's now just an issue that you guys are working together to get through. And then I had one more too. Oh yeah. Then I had 2 more, not 1 more. And then I had 2 more, not 1 more. The next one's giving positive feedback. Aside from just focusing on the things we disagree on, you have to focus more on the things you do agree with, the things you like that they do, the things that your partner does that uplifts you. You have to let them know it uplifts you, it makes you feel good. You have to say, honey, I don't know, when I come home, honey, when I come home from work, I was gone into another state for 3 days, and I came home and you just swept me up and gave me a huge hug, told me how much you miss me, but more importantly, how much you love when I'm here, how it makes you feel more complete and more supported. And as a man, that makes me feel more complete, more supported. It makes me want to be an even better man for you. Positive feedback. Think back to all the time somebody just kind of bitches you out about something, whatever. A boss sat you down and said, you screwed up here. You sucked. It was horrible. Negative feedback sucks. It makes you don't want to do that. Positive feedback is just the same way with good behaviors. When you give your spouse some kind of positive feedback for something they did good to you that made you feel good, it reinforces that behavior. It makes them want to do it more. It makes them want to double down on those kinds of actions and those kinds of things that made you feel good. And then finally, is just to be supportive. You're in a relationship. The whole idea of a relationship is building up a life together. And you can't do that unless you're both willing to come to each other and to try to be that supportive person for the other person, to try to be that partner that lifts them up, that rock that they can step up on, and have that good foundation for their own emotionality. If you can support each other, you cut through all the other crap. You cut through all the disagreements. There's a big fish right here swirling in the water. You cut through all the negativity. You cut through the points where we can't see eye to eye. And it just lets each other know that this is our relationship, this is our life. We may disagree. I may not like what you did, you may not like what I did, whatever, but we still support each other. And part of this disagreement, part of the argument, part of the fight is showing each other that support, so that way it doesn't build into something that becomes a resentment and that truly hurts our relationship. Instead, it becomes one of those steps that we can get over and use to step up to a higher place, to bring our relationship to a more elevated level where our connections are even deeper than they were before that argument. Ladies, you can push your man towards more open communication. Gentlemen, you can show your woman that you disagree, but you still love and support her. You just got to think about things before you start talking. You just can't go into an argument or a disagreement on this attack mode thinking it's you versus them, because it's not. It's not you versus them. It's never you versus them in a relationship. It's you two together versus whatever situation came up that you're now disagreeing about. And the big thing isn't to get away over your partner or to win that argument or disagreement. It's to come to a conclusion together that you two can both see as mutually beneficial, or one that at least builds up your relationship in a positive way. So get out there, go fight with your man or woman, have a good argument, and use that as a bridge to come closer together, to strengthen your bonds.